Hey everybody, hope everyone is doing well. It's December 10th. It's around lunchtime, so I just realized that Palantir put out a new video about 20 minutes ago. It's called Securing the Supply Chain with Palantir Foundry. I love how Palantir is starting to invest more time into educating investors, educating the public, educating those who are interested in using Palantir Foundry, the use cases and the benefits that come with Palantir Foundry. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. Let's get straight into the video, and I'll leave you my comments at the end.
Supply chains are under more stress than ever. As the global pandemic causes disruption on a massive scale, it highlights the inherent complexity of multiple suppliers, items, demands, and destinations. And it reveals the underlying weaknesses in the setup and management of all too many key supply chains. Most supply chain software lacks the capacity and the flexibility to deal with complex challenges and unforeseen disruptions. And getting locked into a long-term software solution that doesn't deliver the requisite resilience, scalability, and adaptability can be an expensive, frustrating, and business-limiting mistake. Even the programs that can handle complexity reasonably well don't give you the key point of differentiation that really matters. And that's the ability to make better business decisions, even as the world around you is changing fast. That's where Foundry comes in. Unlike traditional software that takes ages to install, configure, and get up to speed, Foundry starts adding value from the word go. It's designed to work straight out of the box, bringing drag-and-drop simplicity to data management tasks that used to take weeks of skilled programmer time. Foundry lets you break free from inflexible software to connect all your critical...
I'm just gonna stop real quick. I worked on a well-known ERP implementation at an international company, and supply chain is huge. We were moving stock that had to get to stores across the world. And the biggest issue we had, even after we spent a year and a half with developers from, big consulting companies like IBM and, SAP consultants, at the end, when we went go live, uh, the supply chain was a mess. People didn't know where the stock was. No one knew how many stocks were on track, on the road, in the stores, and it becomes a huge problem and a huge issue. And you start shooting blindly, and you just start going the old school way, which is, just send me a truck to this store. It just needs to get there. And then we had people in the store counting and doing things, and it was a very stressful time. And I can only imagine how much that's being compounded today with all of the supply chain bottleneck issues across the ports in the US, in Canada, in Asia. So it's becoming more important than ever to know what exactly is going on in a timely and reliable manner. So, I'm really happy to see that Foundry is making this pitch to those who are dealing with these supply chain issues. So let's continue.
business functions. It leverages all your existing tech investments too, while neatly sidestepping the blocker of system migration. You'll find that you can unify and turbocharge your legacy systems in hours. Then use individual Foundry modules to make all your data more powerful and more insightful than ever. The ultimate goal? Rapid and evolving understanding of supply chain dynamics, informed by many thousands of data points to drive consistently better decision-making. Foundry can help you resolve everything from short-term operational issues to long-term strategic considerations. Foundry delivers all the power and flexibility you need, with the capacity to incorporate and consolidate data from myriad sources into one single, sharply defined interface. Foundry lets you integrate, harmonize, and evaluate the core relationships across all your datasets, breaking down the silo views you've traditionally been limited to. With this common data foundation, you can accurately model current and future operational scenarios, and then apply the built-in decision-making tools to keep on optimizing supply chain performance. Foundry is not only a powerful data integration and analytical tool, it's also an operating system for the modern enterprise. Armed with the optimal plan of action, Foundry helps you implement your decisions, integrating live with all your existing systems, with full tracking and transparency built in. It's all very well to talk about a solution's capabilities, but it's often easier to see for yourself. Let's meet someone who can help.
Hi, I'm Scott Adams. I'm an engineer at Palantir and spent most of the last year leading our work with the NHS. The UK, along with the rest of the world, has been caught in the grip of the COVID-19 pandemic. But then came along vaccine approval. Suddenly, the focus of the NHS widened from patient care to having to put together a complex new system to deliver tens of millions of vaccine doses against a really aggressive timeframe. Brigadier Phil Prosser, seconded from the British Army to help set up the programme, compared it to setting up a major supermarket chain in a month. The new service didn't even have the luxury of being a greenfield project, with literally hundreds of existing data sources to incorporate, not to mention an ever-changing landscape of disruption and uncertainty, from things like the levels of vaccine supply to the storage requirements and availability of key resources like PPE. So, let's see how Palantir Foundry was able to help. Foundry drastically simplifies complex data integrations and gives transparency into what's going on. Here, for instance, are all the data pipelines that power the vaccination programme for the NHS. And this view lets us trace how information flows through the system. Once the data has been integrated, it forms this helpful ontology, which gives every asset in the vaccination programme a simple interactive representation like this. And the lines are showing us how items relate. And here, if you click into any object in the ontology, you can see immediately all the data that the NHS holds on that item.
So if we're looking at a vaccine, for instance, we know the batch, the supplier, the site, the delivery, the dose, and the vaccination event it ultimately powers.
Although this all looks beautifully simple, creating this view so fast based on the hundreds of input datasets would be way beyond the capacity of any other software. And as this data is extracted, cleaned, and reconciled, Foundry automatically checks for failures. If a problem is detected, an alert will go off, and we can check the information flow, diagnose, and fix the problem. Naturally, with healthcare data, privacy is a first-order concern. But putting regulatory requirements into practice has been a long-standing challenge until now. Foundry incorporates the principles of data minimization, purpose limitation, and accountability directly into the access control system, which enforces good governance at every level. The NHS controls data visibility and access throughout all the tools in the platform, only making sensitive data available to wider audiences once it's been anonymized through aggregation. Right, now you've seen how we can set things up in Foundry, let's put it into action. The question we'll be asking is, what's the best way to allocate vaccination stock in order to maximize utilization and see that the most vulnerable people get jabbed as fairly as possible, as soon as possible? Foundry's tools make it easy to model different actions before we commit to any particular path. We can consider all interdependencies visually and see the knock-on effect our choices are expected to have. In the Vaccination Command Centre, we can see our progress against target patient cohorts, net system capacity based on all known constraints, and we can see any inequalities in who's being vaccinated. The tool lets us explore the implications of each possible strategy, so we can find the one that's optimal for project objectives. In this case, that's maximizing utilization and coverage across priority groups. Given all the factors in this scenario, we've decided to route more doses through GPs so that we can cover more NHS staff. But look, they're going to need more PPE to do that. So let's see what happens when we increase the PPE supplies going to GP surgeries. Foundry lets you model, tweak, and judge the impact of every change at every step until you're ready to go. Right, let's do this. We can submit our chosen course of action for review and approval. And once these people are happy, Foundry is going to write directly to the operational systems to action the plan.
Wow.
With all the actions and rationales being carefully recorded at every step for audit and transparency. I hope this.
Honestly, this video is doing an amazing job at A, showing a use case for supply chain issues, B, addressing a lot of the concern that stems out of, activist groups, civil liberty groups that talk about how Palantir has access to, private citizen data. And, a lot of these people, I guess, don't take the time to fact check. But, the media runs these stories. You could see one of my earlier videos, I'll leave a description below, where they just talk about how Palantir had access to private data and the NHS screwed up. But at the end of the day, if you actually took your time to see what happened, the NHS clearly stated that Palantir never had access to private data. They weren't able to associate these private data to specific persons. What Palantir had was data by patients, their age, their sex, what they have, but it was abbreviated, it was cleansed. You weren't able to associate this health data to a specific person, unless you clearly invested more time and tried to figure it out. Of course, I'm sure Palantir can figure a lot of things out, but what this video does is really shows and reinforces that concept that the NHS controls everything. And Palantir is really offering a value-added service, allowing people to make the best decisions. And I love that they were able to give a clear example of, where the uptake wasn't high enough and, how they can try to pursue a strategy to go through GPs. But if you go through GPs, that means that there's going to be an impact on the PP&E, and then PP&E needs to be, buffed up or increased. And then, they were able to figure out all the parameters and then give a go, give a green light. And then someone's going to execute that, which I find like super efficient, because in a real world situation, there would probably be like 5 meetings dragged over 5 days, different people debating. But here you can't argue the data. And once you form your plan, you run it by your lead, and then your lead approves, then it's go time. So it's amazing how efficient and how quickly decisions can be made. And this is something that I keep having to say, like Google Analytics, Adobe Analytics, or whatever, these seeking alpha authors keep trying to compare Palantir to. It can't do this. Tableau dashboard, it can't do this. Let's keep going.
This has given you some idea of what Foundry can do and how simple, powerful, and effective it is in use.
In just a few weeks, Foundry let the NHS stand up over 30 integrated applications. We've shown you just one of them in action here, on top of the unified data foundation we created. Applications that powered everything from dose ordering and distribution to tracking vaccine uptake. But the really powerful addition was the sophisticated scenario models the NHS could generate in Foundry to drive highly effective data-informed decision-making. Now, you may be wondering what problems Foundry could solve in your organisation. We offer a range of sophisticated, out-of-the-box archetypes to work with, like our supply chain archetype, with workflows and capabilities to address many core issues supply chain managers and planners can face, from excess inventory to bullwhip effects. Foundry is designed as a modular system, meaning you can take what you need from the service and leave what you don't. And since Foundry is delivered on a software-as-a-service basis, there's no expensive setup nor long-term commitment required. Foundry can help you start solving issues in your supply chain almost immediately by integrating all your data sources and relating them to one another. You get the all-round, powerful, data-informed overview you've always wanted. You get the ability to strategize and plan system improvements and check all their effects through our twin data model. And when you start making decisions based on Foundry insights, you'll notice that every decision is better than the last, because you can incorporate real-time data and learnings from every action into the next set of recommendations. Soon, you'll be implementing the efficiencies to drive improved system performance and greater profitability for your business. We empower our customers to use their own data to turn insights into actions, models into outcomes, faster than anyone else. That's the power of Foundry.
Well, there you have it, folks. I must say this was a very good video from the beginning to the end. The sales pitch, it was incredible. I really do believe the fact that they're offering a modular based solution, so you can take what you need and it's SaaS based, means there's no big huge upfront investment, and they can, I imagine, have a lot more flexibility than what would come with a, massive implementation like SAP. I've implemented SAP and it costs to the tune of $100 million, and that was a 2-year project. We had an army of consultants, and the fact that Palantir can just come in, implement, connect to whatever legacy systems, custom systems you have, and you oftentimes do it with just one specialized lead engineer is a beautiful thing. So, let's take a look at the stock price. I know I don't tend to follow the stock price every day, but it is something that I enjoy keeping an eye on here and there. So today the stock is obviously struggling, 1.64, down 1.64. Let's see how the market's doing by looking at our favorite heat map. So the market is doing pretty well, and generally doing well, especially in the tech. You see a lot of green, it's kind of modest. So the fact that Palantir is down 1.6%, it goes to show a lot of things, that the stock does have a hard time finding its, key support, its key baseline. I know it flirted with 20 like yesterday for a little bit, but these day-to-day movements, I look at it for fun just to see what's going on, but I really don't care. I have a huge position in Palantir, over 200,000 US. So for me, day-to-day is nice to know, but it's all about the long term, the execution, and seeing results and following the quarterly reports and the day-to-day news. So, I'm always going to be doing Palantir updates because I have a huge position. So it's definitely something that I'll always keep an eye on. And, I'll keep educating, I'll keep sharing, and, we can have a discussion. So feel free to leave your comments below, if you have any questions or, something that you want me to address, don't hesitate. I'm actually going to invest some time looking into the different SPAC investments that Palantir did and try to do a deep dive, maybe like 3x3. It'll probably be an hour video, and my aim in those videos is to really say, if I think this is really like a pass or trash investment, because there are a lot of speculative investments out there that don't mean much, and I don't see a path to major commercialization that can result in a huge uptick for Palantir. So I'm going to do that eventually, so stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel if you can. It would mean a lot to me, and it would show that what I'm producing is resonating with you and you enjoy it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.